Crime Curious is a true crime podcast that takes an in-depth look into true crime cases through the lens of a trained investigator and former prosecutor turned judge.
If you are sensitive to expletives, anatomical descriptions, and accurate descriptions of true crime scenes, this podcast may not be suitable for you.
Are you sick of giving the special people in your life the same old lame gifts year after year? Well, I am here to help you, friends. You know, if you're an avid listener of this podcast, at the beginning of each episode, I shake a genuine kangaroo scrotum sack for good luck. Now you can own your own genuine handmade kangaroo scrotum sack, and not just a sack. Maybe you're looking for a bottle opener, a unique back scratcher, whatever it is that you're looking for, you can find it at ruballs.com and enter code CRIME10 for 10% off your order. That's ROOBALLS.com, promo code CRIME10 for 10% off your order. Keep it curious and keep it shaken. Welcome to Crime Curious. I'm Charnell.
And I'm Megan.
And I'm shaking our bones, Megan.
And I still have to sit.
All right.
We got the gree taken care of.
We did. Welcome to part 2 of Megan's first two-parter.
I'm going to jump right in.
Please do.
So we left off with some very interesting information Pam gave during her depositions. Mm-hmm. And we have defense attorney Schwartz here, who represents Russ Faria, with just a whole lot of feelings going into this trial. And to be honest with you, maybe feeling a little confident.
Sure.
Right?
I mean, yeah, he's got some solid freaking information, Megan.
I mean, I too, as an attorney and having worked in many aspects, if I was defending one of my cases, would be like, this is good.
Yeah.
Right? The trial of Russ Faria for murdering his wife, Betsy, began on November 18th of 2013. The Lincoln County prosecutor was a woman named Leah Askey. She opened the case calling the motive greed. Her case theory was Russ Faria was an angry man with a temper who smoked marijuana, was in an incredible amount of student loan debt.
Most people who smoke marijuana are not angry, though. I just want to point that out. Okay.
They're hungry.
Okay. Yes.
Incredible amount of student loan debt and needed to benefit from his wife's life insurance policy.
All right.
Question.
Tale is old as time. Song is old as rhyme. Yeah.
Does it bother me just because I'm a former prosecutor that Betsy had terminal cancer? And if Russ thought he was the beneficiary of that and was a hateful fuck, he would have been getting her life insurance soon enough.
Anyway, yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. You're not the only person that has this on their mind, I'm sure.
Okay. Betsy's two daughters, their names, by the way, are Leah and Mariah Day, from the previous relationship, believed Russ was responsible for their mom's murder. Remember, the victim's family only knows what they have been told,
right,
and what comes out at the trial. They both,
and what they're reading in the papers that they're taking is fact. Okay.
Yes.
Like that, I can clearly see how they would have thought these things.
So at the trial, they both did testify that Betsy and Russ had marital issues and fought often. Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that the questions were carefully crafted to bring about those answers as well.
Yeah. I mean, when you testify, you can tell the truth, but tell it with different emotional connections. So if you're testifying about somebody or something that you are unsure of, you might be a little bit more clear. Here, they're convinced that Russ murdered their mom. So, of course, when they testify, things could be exaggerated or embellished to make things sound worse than they were. Or in their defense, maybe it really was that bad at times with the awful fighting.
Right.
And they know.
The
they
questions
are the ones
guided
that know.
them and they answered them honestly.
Yes.
And
no, they can be cross-examined too.
Yes.
And that information was consistent, that there had been fighting quite often. Mm-hmm. So the prosecutor's case, Leah Askey here, was leaning on the familiarity of the murderer. Whoever had killed Betsy cleaned up, showered, and even let the Faria's chow mix dog out. Russ was apparently the only person who knew where the towels were, don't laugh, and control the very protective dog. So let's do the second part first. The really protective dog, I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
This was a chow mix. I'm familiar with chows. They actually can be pretty aggressive.
Yeah.
Sweethearts, big fluffy sweethearts, but they can be pretty aggressive. And apparently, and I think some of this testimony that came from the daughters even was that Russ is really the only one that could control that dog.
Okay.
And the part where he was the only person who knew where the towels were, well, you can just feel how you want about that.
Yeah.
Because when I go to people's houses, often don't know where their towels were, but I bet you I could find them.
Yeah.
In your house.
Yeah,
I could find your
probably
towels.
use some deductive reasoning and figure out some places where people usually keep their towels.
I mean, I keep mine in the basement behind the furnace.
Right.
Isn't that where you keep yours?
Exactly. That's my point. We know thereabouts of where towels would be kept in a household.
A crime scene investigator that testified did not lend much assistance, in my opinion. There had been a blue star test. This is where they look for blood presence and evidence that there has been some type of a substance to clean it.
Right, a cleanup. Mm-hmm.
Apparently there was some small indication, some small evidence of some cleaned up blood. But guess what, Charnell? The camera malfunctioned and the crime scene photos didn't develop.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, that is unfortunate.
Lab tests could not confirm presence of blood on the kitchen floor, the towel drawer, or the drain pipe. Note, there's also no evidence because of this. There's just no evidence, nothing in existence.
Because of this
There's no
malfunction?
evidence of bloody footprints and certainly nothing that matched the soles of Russ's slippers.
Okay. That makes sense to me because we know how it got there.
Let's talk about the time of death.
Yes. Shall we? Because that pissed me off last episode.
Well, the time of death is called into question. Defense attorney Schwartz was sure that Betsy died before 7:21. So I think Pam dropped her off at what, like 7:10?
Yeah, and they had a phone call to Pam's husband at 7:07.
7:07. It was 7:07, yes. I believe they were in the driveway when they made that phone call.
Mm-hmm.
The reason he thinks that she died before 7:21 is that her daughter, Leah, had actually called her mom at 7:21, 7:26, and 7:30 with no response.
Okay. Yep. All right. That makes
So
sense.
mommy's not picking the phone up. And he's just concluding at this point in time that sometime within that 15, 20-minute time frame is when she died.
Or very well in the process of it.
Yes. Also, a death prior to or around 7:21 explained the rigor mortis.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for sure, not for sure.
Well, prosecutor Askey had a different theory, though. And she called a Dr. Kamal Sabarwal.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
Yes.
I believe his name is Indian, and I'm messing it up, and I apologize,
Sorry,
Dr.
doctor.
Kamal, who completed the autopsy,
Okay.
where she questioned him about a thing called cadaveric spasm.
Okay.
We have the word cadaver in there
Mm-hmm.
and the word spasm. Basically, this is a situation where almost instant rigor mortis sets in with a death where it is preceded by extreme exertion.
Okay.
He testified that this is very rare,
I was going to say, how common is this?
but not impossible.
Mm-hmm.
But he also stated that it's not universally accepted.
Oh, okay. So not everybody actually in the medical field believes that this is possible and even a thing.
So
Okay.
I apologize that I did not look up whether Missouri is a Daubert state or not. But for evidentiary purposes, you have to be able to meet certain thresholds to get testimony, to get scientific evidence in.
Mm-hmm.
And in Michigan, it has to be a commonly accepted scientific thing.
Mhm.
And it had to have been tested through hypotheses. And there's a way that you get this information in.
Yep.
So it gave me a weird feeling when I read it. They also spent a lot of time on the 911 call.
Oh, sure. I
Yep.
figured that they would.
Prosecutor Askey is it feels very much the same way that law enforcement did about Russ's complete calm and then hysteria, and she goes into this in detail. And experts can argue both ways. This is one of those things where you're going to get an expert who could come in and say, no, this is a typical response, at least it was for Russ given the information. You have somebody also come in and say, I don't like it. It didn't have any of the waterworks going with it. He wasn't sincere in his wailing.
Stuff like this, in my opinion, is just so messy because all of us as individuals have lived different lives. You don't know what something from his childhood that could be triggering and affecting his response. We don't know those information, and everyone
Charnell,
is different.
And immediate trauma too, which also can trigger past traumas. Experts have argued multiple things from compartmentalization or compartmentalization syndrome, shock, and just general distress.
Imagine yourself walking into your home like you've done a million times. And then all of a sudden, the person that you love is lying there in such a traumatic, horrific way. How the hell would you respond? None of us know, and I pray that none of us have to ever find out.
So Lincoln County investigators never mapped Russ's whereabouts with his cell phone travels that night.
Really?
Or Pam's, for that matter.
Okay.
Defense attorney Schwartz had an expert in forensic computer science testify that Russ's phone was still 10 miles from his house at 9:37 p.m. It actually reached his home quadrant around 9:45 p.m.
Okay.
So we know he's either in his house or around it.
Yeah.
He calls 911 at 9:40.
Okay.
He gets, so basically he's home.
Come on, guys.
He's home somewhere that 9:37 to 9:40. He's basically in the house for 3 minutes.
And the cell phone evidence completely coincides with his account of things. There is no discrepancy here.
Charnell, it just gets worse, this trial. Transcripts from the trial, again, I'm going to credit in the post show notes to the young lady who I signified earlier had done the transcripts, but defense attorney Schwartz was not allowed to ask about Pam's phone in front of the jury. I'm going to get to this. He also wasn't allowed to bring up Pam's possible motives as the new beneficiary on Betsy's life insurance policy. Prosecutor Askey successfully argued that Pam had no direct connection to the case. You have to
the person that last saw her alive?
Yeah. Well, that part could come out. You have to remember that judges only know what is presented in front of them or handled in a pretrial motion.
Right.
Often, judges are learning, supposed to be, about the case when they're sitting through it the same as the jury.
Mm-hmm.
You may know some pretrial issues that have come up. She argued, I believe, as he's trying to get this information in about Betsy, she is arguing that it should not be able to come in, that there's no direct connection other than she was the friend that dropped, her off. The judge, only knowing that information that's presented at time, says, I'm speculating, we're not going to make this some kind of a dog and pony show. It's not coming in. It's not probative. Okay.
And this isn't a trial about Pam. This is a trial about Russ,
the person who's charged.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Schwartz is certainly allowed to cross-examine a witness. I want to point this out right now. That is a fundamental right to confront your accuser, to cross-examine them in a court of law where things are being exposed for the first time, so that we can explore this. But when he did question Pam on cross-examination to see her inconsistencies, the prosecutor objected that he was impeaching the witness.
What?
When he was finally able to ask why she initially said she didn't go in Betsy's home, she said, "I had not planned on staying in the house, and then I turned around and said that I did go in with her." This is all admissible as a prior inconsistent statement, but the prosecuting attorney argued that it wasn't relevant other than trying to accuse Pam, which this is obviously what Schwartz is doing.
Right.
Okay?
Rightfully so.
So I am not going to give an opinion as to whether that was the correct judicial decision. Because again, we only know what is presented to us at that time. Mm-hmm. But Schwartz is getting super frustrated at this point.
Of course.
And he requests an offer of proof. So an offer of proof is where a witness is questioned outside the jury, but on the record and to the judge.
Okay. Got you. Yes. To help the judge put the pieces together, right?
He asked her about the $150,000 life insurance money she received. Pam had just 5 days before the trial put $100,000 in trust for Betsy's girls.
Oh, 5 days before the trial, huh?
And when asked about the other $50,000, she said that she was trying to help the daughter of another friend that had died of breast cancer.
What?
By the way, later she admitted she lied about that.
Well, right.
Oh
my God.
In the courtroom.
And also, that's not what that money was supposed to be for.
No. In the courtroom, is shout out to Chris Hayes from Fox 2. He's the only member of the media covering the trial. I think it might be KTV, Fox
yep.
2. He was like, this is the most important and interesting testimony, and it's not going in front of the jury.
The jury. Oh, God, could you imagine a jury member finding all this stuff out later and saying, holy shit, I would have done things differently?
Yes.
Oh,
I can imagine that.
Humans.
People get upset in trials now because, and that happens, jurors leave and you make a decision and they're like, well, I wish I knew this, or why can't I ask that?
Yes.
Sometimes jurors have sent questions out and they've been like, we want to know if he was intoxicated. But if it didn't come up and it wasn't real legal evidence that was admitted, you know, you have to answer back, you may only use the facts established in the case at hand.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah,
that's how
definitely.
it goes. In her closing argument, prosecutor Askey summed up the case. Russ lived out his role-playing game fantasy, made multiple stops to create an alibi, leaving his phone with friends, the 4 alibis, who she called co-conspirators.
He
He
okay,
left
now we're
his phone,
implementing all of that.
never charged that I could find. That Russ found Betsy on the couch. You're going to have to let me get through this, okay? Your face is priceless. She indicates in her closing argument that Russ found Betsy on the couch and kills her. She says there wasn't blood on on Russ because he was naked. He had just had sex with her. Now, there was evidence of semen presented at trial, which Russ admitted they had had sex 2 days prior, and semen can live 73 hours or something.
5 days, yeah.
So, yeah, longer than that. She then says he showers, cleans up while calling 911. I heard the tape. Gets the dog outside and hides his bloody slippers in the closet. All the while, his co-conspirator friend or friends deliver his phone and the crumpled up Arby's receipt found in the back of his SUV. Her closing. So Schwartz addresses the jury, even noting,
who's doing the fantasy play here? Prosecutor?
Listen to what he says. The prosecuting attorney just accused 4 people of murder with no evidence, ladies and gentlemen.
Amen.
He points out the following. Russ stripped naked, had sex with Betsy, stabbed her, and then reclothed her?
Right.
Or he took the time to reclothe her. She got dressed while he was naked, and then he stabs her through the clothes, because there'd be puncture wounds through the clothes.
Of course.
Then he goes through the timeline and the forensics, or lack of, and alibis of Russ. After 4 hours of deliberation, the jury returned their verdict. Russ Faria was guilty of the murder of his wife, Betsy Faria.
While being naked. Okay.
The judge...
Also, why would he go to all that trouble? All that trouble, I got to ask this, of being naked to murder her and all this stuff, but then leave his slippers in the back of the closet for the police to find? He went to all the other trouble, but the smoking slipper.
So he's completely nude, but he puts his slippers on?
Right. Because his feet were chilly.
I mean, some people leave their socks on during sex.
I
don't
know those people. No.
So,
oh my God.
As happens after a finding of guilt, jury's released, and you have a defense attorney sitting there, the defendant, the prosecutor, and probably her investigating officer. He says, well, do you guys want to set a date? Presumably for the sentencing. And Schwartz says, you mean for a new trial?
Yeah.
Well, the sentencing occurred, and Russ Faria was sentenced to life in prison without parole.
Oh, this hurts my belly.
After the trial, Pam would go and see Betsy's mom sometimes. She was reported to have even bought her a necklace in memory of her daughter. Then she just quit going.
With her daughter's money. With the money that she got of her daughter.
So another piece of info outside of the jury, Schwartz asked Pam, I think it was again during that kind of, I'm going to call it a sidebar, but proof hearing, why it took her so long to set up trust accounts for Betsy's girls.
Yes.
Her answer, my mother just died on October 31st of Alzheimer's that I was taking care of.
Was she the beneficiary of her mother's life insurance too?
But her mom didn't die of Alzheimer's.
Oh. Oh, no.
So hold on to your comfort item. Pamela's mother was Shirley Newman. Shirley was 77 and lived alone in a 3rd-floor apartment at a senior living community in Fenton, Missouri. She did suffer from dementia and arthritis and was often unsteady on her feet. On October 31st of 2013, Shirley's body was found underneath the balcony of her apartment. The railing above from her apartment was broken. The cause of death was blunt force trauma to the chest from a quote-unquote accidental fall. But her toxicology screen had Ambien in it, 8 times the usual dose.
Oh.
Pam was the last one to see her mom alive.
Imagine that.
She had dropped her off home that night, the night before, at 5 p.m., and told staff not to expect her for dinner and possibly for breakfast because her mom had been in the hospital the night before for back pain. That was what she was bringing her for. At the time, no foul play was suspected. Michael Newman, who was Shirley's son and Pam's brother, sued the retirement home, alleging the balcony railing was defective. Now, the suit was later dropped. As you're aware, and I indicated in the first part here, Dateline was highly involved in this case. They reported on it third only to John Bonet and O.J. Simpson. And they actually hired a structural engineer to examine this rail.
Good.
Okay.
Good, because I had questions
If they
about
didn't
it.
hire, I'll correct that so I don't screw it up. They asked a structural engineer to examine it.
Got you.
That person, that engineer, made the determination that to cause the amount of bending the rail suffered, it would take a lawnmower or a vehicle.
Oh.
Even Shirley, being a larger woman at 210 pounds,
Okay.
and even if she fell headlong into the balusters, she still wouldn't have been able to have created enough force for her body to bend the rails
The way that it was
the way that it was bent. In July of 2014, Betsy's daughters were suing Pam for that life insurance money that she was holding in trust.
Okay. Good. Good.
She was asked how much money during the deposition she inherited from her mom. Now, she initially refused to say, then said $100,000. During that deposition, she was also asked about her friendship with Betsy. She said Betsy loved her and would want her to have whatever she had.
Oh, my God.
The lawyer in the deposition asked, did she mention to you that she wanted the money to be used for her daughters? And Pam responded, absolutely not.
Oh, that's contradictory to what you told the police in the Russell investigation, or
Now,
Russ investigation.
The reason that they took her to court to sue her, because I just told you that she had put it in trust for the daughters during the trial, right? It happened 5 days before.
5 days before.
Well, back in June of 2012, during the investigation, when Detective McCarrick had interviewed Pam, she had said she was taking care of the insurance money so the girls didn't blow through it. The detective urged her to set up a trust, but she didn't do it until right before the November 2013 trial and funded it with $100,000 of the $150,000 policy.
You mean the $100,000 that she got from her mom?
That wasn't until after.
Oh, okay.
Mom died in 2013.
Yeah, and wasn't this done in 2013?
This was 2012 that she sets it up. I'm sorry. Yeah. It was right before. You're right. Mom died October 31st, and the trial was in November. So it was within a month.
Okay.
She also bought a new 4-bedroom house, but said that she used her IRAs
Okay.
to do that.
Okay.
But the attorney deposing her, his name was like David Butch, called defense attorney Schwartz after the civil depo because a few weeks after Russ's trial, she took advantage of the revocable trust she set up for Betsy's girls and revoked it.
Of course she did.
So that's why
Surprising no one.
it was set up in November. A couple months later, she revokes it, or a few weeks. And then in July of 14, they have to sue her for the money.
Which is when they sue her.
Yes.
Wow.
Now, Schwartz had already filed an appeal. Obviously.
Sure.
We knew he was going to.
Right.
But now he filed what's called a Mooney motion. A Mooney motion,
I like the sound of it.
right, is that there was new evidence.
Yes.
Evidence that could negate a guilty verdict.
Yes.
In Missouri at that time, a Mooney motion had only been granted 3 times. This made 4.
Yay! Yes.
On February 24th of 2015, Russ's case was remanded, and in June, he was granted a new trial. This time, those missing crime scene photos, 132 of them, well, in the summer of 2015, before the trial, but after the case was remanded, Schwartz received a CD of them from someone at the prosecutor's office.
What?
He also discovered that the prosecutor, Askey, this is reported but not confirmed, you guys,
Okay.
had been involved in a romantic relationship with the captain of investigations in Lincoln County, Mike Lang.
Ouch.
Lang was the one who did not request the data to map Russ's or Pam's cell phone.
Okay.
Both have either denied the relationship. I believe she denied it. And he denied it, and she has not returned calls for comment. So that's why I want to say that is an accusation. I believe it was one maybe made by the defense attorney.
It's a possibility.
But I just want to report to you what I found.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
No confirmation.
Okay.
That June, again, before the trial, before Russ's retrial, there was another interview with Pam. She said that she and Betsy had been lovers.
Oh.
And that they weren't lesbians, but that Pam replaced what a husband would be to Betsy.
Okay.
Now, there's no proof other than that statement.
Oh, and we can't believe anything that flies out of this woman's mouth hole.
I don't want to throw this in there, but one friend did say that couldn't have been true because Betsy was actually kind of homophobic, which I don't love. And I don't think there's any proof of other than that one lady friend stating. But to her, it's what made it incredulous.
Maybe that was her truth. Maybe she heard her say something that rubbed her the wrong way and led her to believe that. Sure.
So Pam goes on that Russ had discovered their affair about a month before Betsy's murder. And that he actually
another motive,
pushed her up against the wall and threatened to bury both of them in the backyard if he ever caught them again.
But this didn't come out during the trial?
Nope.
Before? Okay.
Well, I'm sure Pam would have been embarrassed by that. Pam said the night of the murder was when Betsy was going to tell Russ she was leaving him. So now what we have confirmed, remember, is that Betsy was going to tell him that she wanted both of them to move back to the Lake St. Louis area.
Right.
But now Pam is saying that she really didn't want to leave her there because she was actually moving. She was leaving him like for her. But Betsy's friend Bobby said, and Bobby's the one that sat with her at chemo.
Yeah.
From the first part
that same day.
That Betsy was going to tell Russ she wanted both of them to move to her parents' home, but she wasn't concerned or telling Russ she was leaving him. She was telling Russ, you move with me.
We're going.
You own this house, but I want to go stay in this other house my parents have so I can be close to him, and I want you with me.
Yeah.
Pam talked about how hard all these lies were on her, made about her.
Oh, surprisingly. Who's the victim?
Well, trauma happens, and in October, a month before the trial, Pam had a memory recovery.
Oh, did she?
She did.
Hallelujah.
She had seen Russ at the crime scene.
Oh, my God.
Back in 2012, she clearly told detectives that she had not seen Russ Faria that night. Now she recalls seeing two men inside, and one was Russ. She blamed brain injuries, accidents, and Ambien.
Ambien. Oh, Ambien, like your mom and her 8 times the limit of Ambien?
She apparently used Ambien to sleep because of her head injuries.
Interesting. That's an interesting tidbit of information you just dropped on us.
I find all the information and I give it to you in no particular order.
Right. We do with it with what we may.
And do with it what you will.
Yes. What a miracle, though. She's been touched by the Holy Spirit that's given her memory back.
Well, here's some of it. So in Pam's civil deposition that previous summer, she reported having no memory issues.
Right.
But remember that she reported memory issues in the deposition with Schwartz where she was being kind of with him. And well, I don't remember because I don't remember right now.
Right.
Well, memory loss, in experts' opinions, in certain cases, it's not selective.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, my spouse has selective memory sometimes and hearing.
Yes, selective hearing. Mine also suffers from that.
2 weeks before Russ's second trial, Schwartz found the forensic expert report on the document on Betsy's laptop. Remember this letter?
Yes, of course. It's been sitting in my back pocket.
I'm not going to leave you hanging. I'm going to tie up every loose end that I gave you. 1, it was the only document with the author listed as unknown. So you know how your computer pays attention to documents that you create versus others, right?
Yep.
The document was from Microsoft Word 97, which was not installed on Betsy's laptop. That's why it was unknown, by the way.
Right.
Cookies showed a search for Betsy's signature block on that laptop. So somebody searched for her signature block. Because you can do a virtual signature, computer signature.
I do it for work all the time.
Well, somebody had searched for it in the...
But her life insurance document had her signature.
She signed that was in writing.
That was. Okay, that was in ink.
I'm still going to tell you that she did sign that life insurance policy.
Did we know what she was signing? Do we know that?
You're so smart. I didn't even have it in my notes. one or two people have speculated that Betsy actually affixed her signature to something that she did not know was a change of beneficiary form. But for all we have and for all we know, and with it being a legal valid signature, that was a legal document from the law and State Farm's perspective. But yes, that was brought up.
I just super wonder if poor Betsy thought she was signing something else.
Yeah. You know, another thing that I forgot to tell you during the first trial, and something that it was only mentioned briefly once and in one source, was that Russ had a girlfriend.
Oh.
But apparently it was over before Betsy was killed. At some point in time during her cancer, he had kind of stepped out on her, but that it had ended. And there was never any indication or investigation into that woman being involved at all, or as a motive to kill Betsy. Well, I'm surprised. The
infidelity does not equal murder,
right? But the prosecutors they did bring it up that he was unfaithful, and that perhaps.
And look at how that
motive.
Sounds to a jury. She's dying of cancer, and you're stepping out
really
on
bad.
her. It does. It makes you look like a.
And again, I think that he confirmed it. Like the thing about Russ so far is that he hasn't lied.
Hasn't been exactly. He hasn't been dishonest.
So I'd have to look more into it for you guys, or you can kind of look it up yourself regarding that infidelity piece. But I guess maybe I skipped over it in terms of my notes just because I didn't find it important, but I just remembered it, and I want to make sure you have all the information to decide with it what you will.
Let's, have you ever known people, that have been extremely sick and the other spouse is not sick,
and they tell them to do
whatever? Exactly. Like, I know that sounds awful, right? But your body doesn't stop with its needs just because the person that you're in love with is
I'm not going to justify it, but we're also sorry guys, but they do have certain needs, and while it's not okay to engage in those extramarital activities, they happen, and it's not unlikely that the spouse was like, okay, well, I'm hurt. Maybe this is the reason for some of the arguing, but things are going great now.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And it's over, and
right. And again, although Pam indicates that things were going highly downhill, especially since apparently they were lovers, and he had just found this out a month before, and she was going to leave him.
Right.
There's no evidence from anybody else as to any of those things. In fact, quite to the contrary, even though Russ had some temper and they'd had marriage issues in the past, things seem to be going well at that point, which I think is probably why, in my opinion, Betsy's like, okay, I'm going to tell him, like, let's, for the end of my life, move down closer to my family.
Right.
The other thing that was found in terms of that document was that the Microsoft Outlook email app was opened at the same time as the document, but Betsy didn't use Outlook, and because it wasn't configured, it couldn't be emailed. Oh. So this is why Pam never received the quote unquote email from Betsy, but she knew about it. Betsy told her about it later. Remember?
Oh, okay.
Did you get that email I sent you? That's why she knew it must be on her computer somewhere.
And how she was able to tell investigators where to go next for their investigation.
Let me tell you something interesting about this trial, this retrial. He had a bench trial instead of a jury trial.
Oh, good.
This rarely
explain the difference.
This rarely happens.
Some people might not know what a bench trial is.
A bench trial is a trial in front of the judge
only.
Instead of exercising your right to a jury of your peers of 12 independent individuals to make decisions, they had a judge listen. Now, there's a number of reasons or theories that defense attorneys might do this. In this case, Schwartz and Faria obviously had a bad experience with the jury before. They had also had evidence excluded that they believed was exculpatory and wanted to come in. And so it never went before the jury. This is a way to ensure that all of the information that you have and that you want to get out there is going to go to the trier of fact in that case, in this case, the judge.
The judge, exactly.
So while the prosecutor can still object and still make arguments that something is more prejudicial than probative or not relevant, this is going to be up to the judge to decide instead of perhaps tainting a jury with information.
Based on the law. Let me point something out that
rules of evidence.
The whole reason I think this was smart, because look at how you as a judge have presented this case. You purposely were like, I will let you know, because this was a specific part of the case, that he did have a girlfriend. I don't think that it's relevant and important information in the motive for him wanting to murder his wife. It did
come in.
Okay, right. But to a jury who is not only a trial by evidence, but they're judging his character too. You as a judge know that doesn't fucking matter, right? You have to look at the evidence only, but you are a woman of the law, and so you know that. So I would agree with this, because there are some things that make him look like a not great stand-up character guy, right? But
he was a little rough.
Yeah, but you have to look at the evidence only, and I think they knew a judge would do that.
Do you want to? And this is just another insert here. So you guys paid for this. Like, you want commentary from us? You want me to do a modern case? This is what you get. The prosecutor, the state, they have a right to request a jury trial too.
Sure. Yeah.
I find it strange.
Yeah.
She had much success with a jury trial before. So he can waive his right to have a jury trial, but the prosecution, the state, has a right to a jury trial as well.
Yep.
So if they don't waive that, they had to have then agreed to have a bench trial for whatever reason.
Interesting.
Prosecutor Askey is involved in this case. She's still prosecuting.
Okay.
She again argues to the judge that all evidence of an alternate suspect be excluded. Same argument as before. Well, this time Circuit Court Judge Stephen Omer allowed the evidence. That made this trial look dramatically different in terms of evidence allowed in.
For sure it did.
You just changed the face, right?
You did.
A crime scene investigator testified that Russ's slippers looked like they had been dipped. There was no sign of cleanup, which crime scene photos now corroborated.
Yes, the mysterious photos that arrived.
The document / email was admitted as well. Schwartz did not call Pam to the stand. She even sent a text message to someone later that said, quote unquote, "Did Schwartz forget his set of balls today? I would love for him to grill me for 8 hours."
Oh my God.
This woman, this was strategic on defense attorney Schwartz's part.
Yep.
And the judge, when he made his findings, his rulings at the end of this trial, called the investigation by Lincoln County rather disturbing and acquitted Russ Faria of the murder of his wife.
Rather disturbing indeed.
So you can imagine Russ's relief, but so much damage has been done.
Absolutely.
And someone killed his wife.
Yes.
Okay.
And he's done what, 3 years in prison?
We
at
will
this point
get
in
to
time?
that. But yes. So Schwartz was concerned that the prosecutor was not planning on charging Pam Hupp.
Yeah.
And he even called the U.S. Attorney General's office and begged for a review of the case. He didn't want this to be a cold case. And he said somebody else is going to die.
And guys, defense attorneys don't have to do that.
Fuck no. No.
Yeah, he could clearly see this.
Schwartz believed his client from the beginning.
Yeah.
He defended him in really just an expert manner in both cases. He was by the book.
Yeah.
In my opinion. And then he made a phone call later because he's telling the PA's office, hey, are you going to charge Pam? Right. And he's get the impression that they're not.
This is disturbing.
So he calls, reports it, and says, quote unquote, this is from an interview with him, not conducted by me, although I would love to. Somebody else is going to die.
Yeah.
On August 16th, 2016, Pam Hupp shot 33-year-old Louis Gumpenberger.
Oh, my Lord.
Louis Royce Gumpenberger was from St. Charles, Missouri. He was born February 17th, 1983, to Margaret Birch and Michael Kenneth Gumpenberger.
Oh.
He had 2 children, Desiree and Trevelyan. Trevelyan? I think it's Trevelyan, probably just with an extra Y.
Yep, cute.
Desiree and Trevelyan. Louis also had 2 brothers, Michael and Robert. Now, Louis had been involved in a car accident in 2005, and he suffered a traumatic brain injury. It left him, I know. It's okay. Take a deep breath.
I can't breathe.
This TBI left him with developmental delays and physical. He ended up being kind of post-TBI childlike and soft-spoken. He walked with a limp, and his left hand hung, kind of not able to be used.
If you tell me that she's a beneficiary of his life insurance, I'm quitting this podcast.
Not going to tell you that.
Okay.
It's worse. He only left his mom's
Signing
house.
my resignation now.
You can't quit. I refuse to accept. Lewis would only leave his mom's house to take short walks around the neighborhood.
Sure.
So if you can imagine, I mean, this guy, he's young, he's 33, he has 2 kids. Now he's been in this TBI, traumatic brain injury, you guys, and he's back living with his mom, who basically I think helps take care of him. And then I don't think he was actually really taking care of his kids at that point, but they loved him, and he did what he could.
They were doing what they could in their situation.
So on August 16th, Pam Hupp calls 911 reporting a burglary, home invasion. I call it a home invasion. I think St. Louis, Missouri calls it a burglary.
Okay.
She told the O'Fallon police that this man had tried to assault her and was demanding, quote unquote, Russ's money. He was yelling that he would kill her, and she ran into her bathroom for her gun. Then her bedroom door opened and she emptied her Ruger LCR handgun into him. Shot.
So not only is she trying to claim self-defense against a disabled traumatic brain injury survivor, but she also is trying to bring up Russ's name again to get him implicated in another illegal activity because she's pissed that he is out of prison.
There was $900 found on Gumpenberger and a note that said, quote, kidnap Hupp, get Russ's money from Hupp at her bank, and kill Hupp.
Oh my God.
And to quote unquote, take Hupp back to house and get rid of her. Make it look like Russ's wife. Make sure knife sticking out of neck. In return for a reward of $10,000. This is in a note.
And the note is written in caveman language like that?
Pam Hupp called a 911 shortly before the shooting to report a breaking and entering, okay?
Uh-huh.
When Pam was taken to the station for questioning, she asked if it was going to be filmed and said she usually appears on the news with KTV reporter Chris Hayes. And it's his fault that threatening people are now attracted to her.
Oh, this woman who's living in a fantasy world? Pam.
There were no unicorns present in the interview room that we're aware of.
That anyone else could see.
I don't know if they did this is real and this is not real with her like we do in a forensic interview, but I kind of wonder if we should have.
If I said it's raining in the room right now, is that a truth or a lie?
Right. Well, your dogs were wet, and using deductive reasoning, I could assume that at one point, that's a no. Hupp reported that Gumpenberger was armed with a knife and had jumped out of a car, attacked her while she was in her SUV in the garage, and demanded that she drive to the bank and get Russ's money.
This man only has one working hand, correct?
That's what we find out later.
Okay.
She was able to knock the knife out of Gumpenberger's hand and then fled into her house, only shooting him in self-defense when he chased her.
Yeah, she is her own hero.
Police investigation went differently this time, Charnell.
I'd say.
Cell phone records were obtained.
Oh, well, she got through it once. She thought for sure she could do it again.
They showed Hupp was actually in Gumpenberger's neighborhood less than an hour before the shooting. So she had said she'd never met him before, but she was in his neighborhood near his home an hour before.
Okay.
On August 10th, 6 days before Lewis was shot, a police report was filed with the St. Charles County Police. A woman that matched Hupp's description had approached a woman posing as a Dateline NBC reporter and offered her $1,000 to come reenact a 911 call.
What?
A second witness, a man, also informed police that Hupp approached him with a similar proposition. And this is what they theorized happened to Lewis, who is certainly operating at a different mental capacity.
Yes.
They believe that she posed as a Dateline NBC reporter and was offering money to people to reenact a 911 call.
Yeah.
And Lewis said yes.
Yeah.
There were 9 $100 bills in Gumpenberger's pocket. And there was a 10th $100 bill on Hupp's dresser.
Oh.
With sequential serial numbers to 4 of the bills found on Gumpenberger.
Yeah. That's not a coincidence.
This was not done intelligently.
Thank you for doing a really good investigation,
You're
guys. Oh, gosh.
There was a carpet swatch found by police that appears to have been positioned to protect a rug in Hupp's home from Gumpenberger's blood. Because before I shoot an intruder, I quick grab a rug or I grab something to protect my rug from blood.
Like, this is my favorite one from ruggable.com.
I cannot shoot anybody.
No.
Right.
On this rug because it's hard. It's discontinued.
And the reason I'm being super judgmental now is because this case is going to go a lot differently as the last one.
Right.
So I'm confident and comfortable in how this went. The paper that the note Gumpenberger had on him and also the knife were all items that had been bought by Pam at the Dollar Tree.
Oh.
So there is a paper, that one that he has with the notes on it, and she has purchased paper and a knife and such from the Dollar Tree. I didn't know Dollar Tree.
Local Dollar Tree.
Sold like tactical knives. So he obviously had a steak knife. I don't know.
Wow.
And Gumpenberger's both physical and mental issues later was discovered would not have made his alleged actions possible.
No.
Gumpenberger was a victim.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, this poor guy.
On August 23rd of 2016, Pam Hupp was arrested and charged with first-degree murder and armed criminal action.
And I'll give a clap for the second time this episode.
After her arrest, she went to use the bathroom and used a ballpoint pen to stab her neck and wrists.
Interesting. Her neck and wrists, you say?
The the prosecuting attorney on this case, Phil Groenweg. It's Grenweghe, which is a nice German or Dutch word. And I think it's Groenweg. Described this as a consciousness of guilt.
Yeah.
These are admissible, by the way.
Yeah.
Later. Her bail was set at $2 million. And she was officially indicted by a grand jury on December 16th of that same year, 2016. A month later, January 31st, 2017, she pled not guilty. In March of 2017, the prosecutors stated they would seek the death penalty. In May of 2018, the judge ruled that evidence related to Pam's mother's death could not come in.
Okay.
But in June, the judge ruled that the prosecutors could present evidence relating to the killing of Betsy Faria.
Really?
And her trial was set for June of 2019.
Okay.
It didn't happen, the trial. Pam Hupp entered an Alford plea, waiving her right to a jury trial. And with this Alford plea, as part of the plea agreement, the death penalty was taken off the table. So she's essentially admitting guilt at this point in time in the form of a plea offer without ever having to make the admission of guilt.
Yep, to give any explanation
any
or
details.
anything like
She
that.
was sentenced to life in prison without parole in August of 2019. Pam is currently serving her life sentence at the Chillicothe Correctional Center. In October 2019, Margaret Birch, Gumpenberger's mom, successfully won a civil wrongful death suit. It was wrongful death, fraud, and misrepresentation that she sued Pam Hupp for, and received a judgment of $3 million. She's in prison.
She's never going to get that money.
Well, her attorney successfully filed to garnish her prison accounts. Although not receiving much significantly, they did get $783 garnished from Pam Hupp that she earned in prison working as a tutor.
Oh, good.
I just like it.
I do too.
I just like it.
I do too.
In September of 2020, Mark Hupp, Pam's husband, filed for divorce, stating irreconcilable differences.
I'd say.
Like, my wife is a murderer and she's in prison.
Right. And
for
I
life.
I have a hefty life insurance policy, so I would like to stay alive.
And by March of 2022, so over a year, the divorce was final. And that makes sense when you have children. They weren't in the home, though, anymore, I don't think. They weren't. They're adults at this point. And but they have property.
Yeah.
So
and
Mark,
we have COVID in the middle of all that.
Let's math it. Mark files for divorce September 2020, and then March 2022, the divorce is filed. The same time Mark filed for divorce, September 2020, Hupp filed a motion to vacate her plea, claiming she was pressured into taking the plea. Well, Pam had stated before that one of the reasons she took the Alford plea was to spare her family. Okay? It was denied in March of 2022, the same time her divorce was final.
Whoops. All right.
And it was denied as untimely.
It's a bad month for you, Pam.
It was untimely.
Yeah.
Lewis's family say that his kids miss him dearly. They suffered greatly, and his son was afraid to go to school or spend the night with a friend.
Oh.
His mom, Margaret, the one that sued, said her life was ruined. Quote unquote, my life has been hell. Every day I think about my son.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Of course they do. Ugh.
So tragic and unnecessary and done obviously to try to get Russ in trouble for some type of a murder.
What is her fucking beef with Russ?
Well, poor Russ, right? He obviously wasn't faking hysteria when he found his wife dead.
No.
And even though a normal officer or first responder or maybe a true crime fanatic like us would walk in and say, oh shit, this woman's been murdered, he thought she committed suicide. And then this is what he goes through to get there. His wife is dead. He found her. He's traumatized. He spent 3.5 years in prison until he was acquitted.
Yeah. And this isn't a situation, just the last 2 episodes, Megan, we presented a 911 tape that we were suspicious of because it was reported as a suicide where it was so obviously
a gunshot wound to the head. Same thing.
Well, I'm sorry, a drug overdose suicide.
Right.
The story kept changing on the 911 the 911 calls. So that is different in my opinion.
They're very different. And just goes to show you that you can feel a certain way about a 911 call and they're so subjective.
Yes.
They're so subjective.
Yeah.
So Russ, after spending 3.5 years in a prison and then acquitted, sues Lincoln County for his wrongful conviction and they settled out of court in March of 2020 for a sum of $2 million.
Okay.
Shirley Newman, Pam's mom, after Gumpenberger's murder, her case was re-examined and her cause of death was reclassified from accidental to undetermined.
Okay. Yep, that leaves it open.
It does. An administrator from the St. Louis County Medical Examiner's Office told Dateline, quote, the amount of evidence available is no longer clear and compelling enough to indicate that it was an accident, end quote.
Sure. Yes. Hindsight
now
is 2020.
There is no ongoing investigation and no criminal charges have been filed on anyone in connection to her death.
Right.
As for Pam Hupp, I mean, she's in prison, right?
Right.
In July of 2021, Hupp was charged with the first-degree murder of Betsy Faria.
I've been waiting for you to get here.
By Lincoln County prosecutor Mike Wood.
Good.
In September of 2021, Pam Hupp, who was 64 now, 64 then in 2021, waived her right to a preliminary examination. The case was approved for a change of venue to a different judicial circuit, I believe 3 hours away.
Okay.
Both the prosecutor and defense attorney agreed on venue. Now, even Schwartz, who has been popularly interviewed throughout this, and remember, he represented Russ and just has been convinced since the beginning that Pam Hupp is responsible for this. He even said she deserves to have a change in venue.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Third most covered case by Dateline in their history. Okay, so people know this case.
Yeah.
The trial is anticipated in late 2023, or Schwartz even said he thought it probably might not even happen until 2024, and he would know, he's a defense attorney in Missouri, and he would know how the timelines work for their trials.
Yep.
This case is ongoing and open. I'm going to state this very clearly. Pam Hupp is innocent until being found guilty in a court of law. She is entitled to a fair and impartial jury. The prosecution is seeking the death penalty.
Oh, okay.
I want to end with this. Some things that Betsy's friends said about her.
Yes.
And I'm not going to say their names because I actually went to her obituary and, you can see the nice things that people say about you. But those people didn't post those publicly. They post them on an obituary site, and they deserve respectfully to not have me say their names.
Yep.
In high school, Betsy was the kind of person that made everyone feel like they had a friend. Another person said, Betsy was what I consider a lifelong friend, one of my best friends. She was like a sister to me and an aunt to my boys. From softball trips in high school with her dad, dressing up for Halloween, all the crazy slumber parties, and even into adulthood, we managed to maintain our friendship. Betsy Faria was that kind of friend.
Aww.
And there is the case of Betsy Faria and Louis Gumpenberger, possibly Shirley Newman as well, but we don't have any charges on her on Pam regarding those. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you at this point, there's just so much extensive research that was done. If you want to see the truth about Pam, that is available, I think, on Netflix right now. Again, I wasn't a fan, but I'm not a paid movie critic, so you go see if you like it for yourself. About just hundreds of snippets on YouTube from Dateline, and then I think they covered on the actual Dateline episode 6 different full-length episodes of Pam Hupp and of these cases. So we don't always bring you highly publicized cases, y'all, but this was one that I read that I'm like, I think our listeners would like our perspectives on this. And I want to know what happens. I'm so extensively following this case to see what happens. Yeah. And to see if Pam Hupp is either guilty or not guilty of this crime. And even to see maybe, are there potential other people?
Right.
Who knows? Right. It hasn't been explored in court. And now
possibly come out.
Now it will be. And we just had a case recently, our Molly Young case. Again, nobody's been officially charged. Those are cases, you guys, that we are interested in seeing the criminal justice system work. Mm-hmm. And we want to see things explored in court that should be.
Yes. Yeah. That's at
it.
The end of the day, that's exactly it. We just want these things. Everyone deserves to have their accuser, right, explored in court, or who they're
and if you've been accused of something,
accuser, but their possible perpetrator, right? And if there's no other leads, like at least just explore this in court. I
remember
agree completely.
Our criminal justice system is set up to lean defense heavy. It would be
because you're innocent until proven guilty.
You are. And, if one, guilty man walks free, and then, that's just kind of, and because you followed all of the rules, because you followed all the rules of evidence, it could happen because we're defense heavy. This was a situation where, and I think the reason it got so much coverage is that there was a wrongful conviction.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's why it's important to bring it. You can see all the perspectives here.
Well, and we do have people who write us with very well-known cases on purpose because they want to hear our perspective on it. So we will sprinkle those in on our podcasting journey as well. Yeah, but I like to be more well known for things for covering victim stories who aren't as heavily covered. But that's not to say that we won't just sprinkle in some other heavily covered ones just for our own unique possibly perspective on it. So
right. Absolutely.
So that is okay too. Do you want me to bathe
I
you?
do. I would love for you to bathe. I think after the deep dives, it's just only fair. You let me know when your next one is. I bathed you for Molly's.
You did.
So you're going to bathe me
it was
for Betsy's.
And for this one, I'm not going to say her name because I actually don't. She wrote it to us of a brain bath, but it's her. This actually happened to her. And so I didn't actually have permission to use her name.
Oh my God, I know what you're going to do.
So, all right. She said, I don't know if you've read this one because it was on Instagram. And
you
don't usually do the
I
messenger
did not
on Instagram.
No.
Mm-hmm. She writes, you guys, I made a great first impression on the third day of school. So it was interhouse, which translated to interhouse, where school kids are divvied up into 3 teams and compete against one another to choose the athletic team. It kind of sounded like a field day, like we have here.
Yes, and you stand in line in gym and you pick the person to make your teams.
Yeah, so it's like
toward the end.
For us here in America, you know, field day. So it's time for field items, and my daughter is doing high jump. She came in second, by the way.
Oh,
she says.
Congratulations to your daughter.
Yes, and in the middle of high jump, it's time for hurdles. So I have to run across the field to tell them, just wait, she's on her way. All right, so like she didn't want her to be late for her high jump, but they're setting up for hurdles. Now, it's a freakish hot summer day. I do believe this listener is from South Africa.
Okay.
So yes, it's very hot there right now. Glasses are foggy with me running. Got the sport bag over one shoulder, sports drink in another. Hair is in my face, focused on where I'm running to. I don't look at the ground and the next moment I trip over the tent peg and land flat on my face. Teachers and kids were running. Oh, are you okay? Are you okay? I just got up and say, please wait, Mia is coming. Pretending like she didn't just fall flat on her freaking face in front of the entire school.
I would too. Jump up and turn around really quick.
Right. So now sports bag is off my shoulder. Don't even know where the drink went. Hair is messed up. Got a green grass stain on my left knee. And I'm pretty sure that I had a nipple peeking out of my white blouse.
Of course. Wardrobe malfunction.
Yes. We have a Janet Jackson moment.
I'm crying. It's the Super Bowl of field days.
Yes.
Where's Justin Timberlake when you need him?
She's like, and here I am pretending nothing happened and just asking them to wait while the
sir, you did not see my nipple.
That did not happen. She said, while the teacher looked horrified, but it was kind of worth it. She came in third. Guess I will be remembered.
Oh.
So she came in second in the high jump, but then third in the hurdles.
That's fantastic.
Congratulations to your daughter.
And we hope that
At
you're
your
okay.
expense. Yes.
I hope that your pride has recovered and that nobody posted your nipple online.
Exactly. Also, I hope you got that grass stain out because those are a bitch.
Oh shit! You gotta use like the really good stain remover stuff. Peroxide, right? Isn't it like eat through the enzymes?
I think so.
That's blood.
Oh, not grass.
All of my crime scene stains mix confused sometimes.
This would absolutely happen to me though, and I resonate with the accidental nipple peeking. It can happen. She's wearing a white blouse.
Dude, yeah. To me, that's just. I mean, I'm wearing a tank top, and I go for a jog, and it's entirely possible I'll be completely exposed by the end of it. So
right.
You never know.
It just is.
Gotta double up on the sports bra sometimes.
You do. All right. Well, thank you all so much for listening. Check out our website. We have merch on there if you'd like to partake in that. Also, everything is on there if you want to join Patreon, if you want to just donate through Buy Me a Coffee for us to buy books or whatever. You're welcome to do that. The links are also in the show notes. Follow us on social media. Interact with us. Send us your case suggestions either through our website, crimecurious@yahoo.com, or our socials. Like, we are everywhere.
We try to cover them too.
We do.
So I have a long list.
We do, and we're getting there because, we won't stop. So we're got plenty of content to create.
I want a shirt that says that too.
We won't stop. Yes. Can we also, after this case,
unless you ask nicely and we don't have your consent.
Right. Then we will. We'll
just
pause
to clarify
and get consent. Then we'll keep going. But after this case, I think we should have a shirt that says, sometimes the husband didn't do it.
Oh, right.
Because I've seen those shirts of the husband did it. Yeah. Sometimes he didn't. And then we got to look elsewhere. Just saying.
Also, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer seems like it's not as safe anymore as keep your enemies close and your friends away.
Right.
Like, yeah.
I agree.
There's that.
Oh, God. All right. Well, thank you all so much for listening.
Keep it curious, y'all.
Yes, and keep listening. Till next time.
Bye-bye.
Are you sick of giving the special people in your life the same old lame gifts year after year? Well, I am here to help you, friends. You know, if you're an avid listener of this podcast, at the beginning of each episode, I shake a genuine kangaroo scrotum sack for good luck. Now you can own your own genuine handmade kangaroo scrotum sack, and not just a sack. Maybe you're looking for a bottle opener, a unique back scratcher, whatever it is that you're looking for, you can find it at ruballs.com and enter code CRIME10 for 10% off your order. That's ROOBALLS.com, promo code CRIME10 for 10% off your order. Keep it curious and keep it shaken.